How to be memorable. So, this is seemingly a conceptual, like philosophical idea almost that, like, oh, how do you be memorable? How can you make people remember you? I mean, like, you don't have control over people's minds. It's not necessarily something that you can really break down into constructive behaviors. But I'll try my best here to sort of work my way around and try to get as close as possible to the potential behaviors that you can do as a creator, as a brand, as a performer, as a entrepreneur that you can do to make people remember you, to make yourself memorable to the point where people actually remember your brand name, they remember your messaging, they remember your products, they remember your performances, and you stay within their mind, right? They actually have a positive association. Like they've created an association in their mind with you and the thing that you offer, the thing that you perform, the thing that you give, the gift that you give to the world, right? So if you think that being memorable is not useful, think again, because even beyond performing, doing entrepreneurship and starting businesses and building products and being creative and creating content, right? Even beyond that, just within interpersonal relationships with your friends, with your family, with strangers, the more memorable you are, the more influence you have, the more connected you feel to the people you love. I mean, it's transcendent, right? It's so deeply ingrained into our experience as humans. And if you're able to kind of create these moments to follow these principles and act upon these behaviors as often as you possibly can, then you become a more memorable person, a more memorable human. And the more memorable you are, the more impact you can have. And so if you want extraordinary outcomes, you need to realize that being remembered, being present in other people's minds is so, so important. And it gives you a lot of leverage. So first principle is to break the rules, right? Be controversial. Have the undeniable, possibly delusional confidence in yourself and self belief that you can just break the rules and get away with them, because fundamentally in society, as long as you're following the law, then you can break the rules, right? There's a difference between law and rule, right? Law is obviously, there's a lot more consequences there. There's a whole other side of that, but rules are different. Both laws and rules are psychological human constructs, ways that we kind of make life a little bit more easy to understand. But I think there's a fine line between rules and laws that you can cross sometimes. But the line between law, you don't necessarily want to cross that often, but for rules, there's the consequences are less present, and the potential outcomes, the positive consequences are unlimited. Like, they are limitless, right? You can get so much out of just breaking a few rules, and even if you have to suffer some consequences, it's worth it, right? Even if you do need to deal with some form of consequence, the output that you get from making the input of breaking the rules is incredibly worth it. So the investment is sufficient, and compared to breaking the law, which has some very dire consequences in some cases, breaking the rules is nothing. So, and the fact is, when you break the law, typically you're not even getting that much out of it. Like, as far as benefits go for yourself, you're not actually getting much out of it. So the magic lies in being able to break the rules, right? If you want to be remembered, if you want to be memorable, you need to learn to break the rules. You need to overcome the uncomfortableness of abiding by the rules and following the herd, right? Like, sticking to the script. You need to learn how to go off script and have a monologue that people remember, right? The greatest monologues of all time. I feel like a good amount of them, I'm sure there's some that are perfectly scripted, but a good amount of them have been improv'd. That there was some improvisation going on that made that particular moment that much more memorable, right? Because if the actor or the actress had just read off the script with, as it was planned, then the emotions and the spontaneity and the improvisation would never have hit the same way, right? And we would not have those legendary monologues in those movies that we were used to having. Like we could never even imagine a world with them because they wouldn't have happened. But but for most great monologues, they happen because the actor or the actress went off script, because they broke the so-called rules, right? And the power in that is that if they'd stuck to the scripts, nobody would remember that moment. Genuinely. Like nobody would have remembered it. Nobody would have noted that moment. But it's because they had the skill, expertise, and belief in themselves, and almost crazy risk taking. It's a risk to go off script and to mess things up, but they did it. They took that risk. They grabbed themselves by the scruff of their neck, and delivered some of the greatest performances that we will always remember. So, breaking the rules is one of the most important principles, I think. It's one of the ones that a lot of people today are so fearful of. I personally used to be a huge rule follower since grade school. I used to be the golden kid, the golden child. Never got disciplined. Never got in trouble for anything. Never misbehaved. We had in kindergarten class, we had this wall with these little pockets, and each pocket had 3 colored cards: a red card, a green card, a yellow card. Each day you started with a green card, and it would decline from there if you misbehaved to red. And I'm proud to say that I never once changed my card even to yellow. It was always on green. So since a young age, I was taught to be a rule follower, to never misbehave, never disrespect the teacher, never try to be a rule breaker, right? To never be anything like that. And what I've noticed is that as I've come to live my life and grow up, I've become more and more of a rule breaker. I've become less a rule follower because I don't know if it was some influence. I don't know if it was my friends, if it was just my reframing and just like the development of my belief systems, my values. But yeah, like I used to be a huge rule follower, but that's kind of started to decrease. Like I've started to follow rules less. I've started to realize that breaking the rules is okay. It's not that big, amorphous, crazy possible consequence. Like I don't really overthink it anymore. If I don't agree with something, if I don't think that a rule is even doesn't make sense, then I won't follow it. And honestly, the consequences of breaking most rules is not that bad. And when I was able to reframe my mind in that way, to realize that, oh, if I don't follow this rule, this is the consequence of it, and it's honestly not even that bad. It's okay, right? And when you understand the consequences aren't that bad for most rules, then you feel a lot more comfortable breaking them. But anyway, that's a whole long tangent to say that the first principle of being memorable is to break the rules. The next thing is to give them something to remember you for. So obviously, you need to give them something that they can hold on to, right? Something that they can hold in their mind, right? Like, so whether it's a product association, a brand, a performance, you need to do something or create something that people will remember you for. So the reason why copying and trying to replicate the behaviors of success of previously successful people that are where you are that are where you want to go. The problem with that is that they've already done it. They've already created the association in their audience's mind, right? So people already remember them for doing that thing. And so when you come in, the newcomer, the nobody, come in and try to copy them and replicate their behaviors for success, you can't just like steal people's association with one person's brand, right? Think about the big name brands. If you want to start like a soda company, like a carbonated beverage company, right? You can't just come in and like steal the brand associations with Coca-Cola, right? Coca-Cola has been around for decades, maybe even centuries, and you can't just come in and expect to have their branding and like steal the association that the Coca-Cola brand has in people's minds, right? Coca-Cola has, like, through their branding, through their products, have given people something to remember, right? Like Coca-Cola has been a part of, I'm sure, like absolutely unforgettable experiences, unforgettable performances, unforgettable displays, right? And so you can never have that association. Like, even if you come in as a new brand, you have to kind of create your own association. If you tried to copy Coca-Cola or Pepsi or something, it's not going to work because they've already done it. They already have the real estate in people's minds. People already have the association with the big brands in their minds. And so you would just get tossed to the side. Like, you would never be able to build that association unless you do something original. So do something original, build a product with something so unique, a twist, right? That people will remember, right? You need to be able to break, like, this kind of connects with breaking the rules, right? If you want to give people something to remember, you can't follow the rules because the rules are set by companies and performers that have already created associations in people's minds. And so the way to create something new, the way to create a new potential association in people's minds with the brand, with the performer, with the form of content, is to do something so unbelievably different. Do something so wild, right? Something so wildly rule-breaking, ground-shattering, earth-crushing, right? That people can't help but be like, holy shit, that person just did that. That person just broke the rules, and I honestly kind of like it. And they will remember you for that. And then people will start copying you, you know? But you'll be that OG. You'll be the person, if you do it right, if you play your cards right, they will remember you specifically. They'll remember your performance. They'll remember your product because you're the first one to do it, right? There's like those piano performances where they sit there doing nothing, right? But it's like a work of art. It's a work of art to sit there and do nothing in a way. And like, there's a lot of performers that do it now, but the first guy to do it, imagine people at that performance, even if it's a negative association, will never, it'll forever be ingrained in their memory, right? That performance is incredibly memorable, right? And then the final principle is vibe. You need to create, this is almost like branding for products, but you need to create a vibe within your performances, within your content, right? A vibe that people come to look forward to, right? If someone clicks on your video, they shouldn't get different music, different person, a different topic. It should be the same consistent vibe so that if they choose to associate with your brand, with your product, with your performance, then they come to expect that, right? If they choose to follow you, to, you know, keep up to date with what you're doing, to buy your shit, then you need to give them something to expect. Because if you keep just giving them new surprises, inconsistencies, then who the hell are they following? They don't even know who they are, you know, buying from. They don't even know who they're being an audience to, right? So you need to give them that consistency, something to wrap their arms around, something to associate in their mind. And when you're consistently pushing at that button, it creates a really, really powerful relationship with your audience, with your customers. And yeah, I think vibe is also very important. It's almost all up there with, you know, breaking the rules. You can create a vibe. Let's think about it behaviorally. How can you create vibe? With products, it's all about branding, right? The messaging, the ads, it's like, it's every single tiny little seemingly unimportant part of marketing and the way that you present the product that creates brand perception. And the way that you get people to perceive you in a positive light is to create vibe, right? And so if you create a brand through your messaging, through your color scheme, through content, through advertising, through the way that the executives present new ideas, the way that you present products, the way that you actually deliver products, the way that your products are, all these little aspects add to your brand, and that creates vibe, right? People, it's like the whole Apple thing, right? The whole energy and vibe and the culture surrounding Apple. That's actually a better way to put it. Build culture, right? Create a culture around what you're doing. Give people something that they can get invested into, right? Like why do people go to like the Grammys and go to like the Oscars and stuff? There's like a aura. There's like a culture surrounding that, right? It's like, holy shit, there's gonna be a bunch of famous people dressed in really fancy clothes going down the red carpet. There's an opportunity here for some really crazy interviews, amazing photos, and it's an award show with the biggest names in Hollywood. Like there's vibe, there's culture there. People want to be there. Think Coachella, right? There's culture there. People want to be there. And so how can you create this as like a performer, as a creator? It really just comes down to your personality, right? You gotta be so unapologetically you and so unique and so consistent to your identity and to your values and what you believe that people can't help but want to rally behind you, right? If you're so convicted, if you have so much conviction, so much belief, so much passion for what you're doing, people can sense that. And if you're being genuinely authentic about it, people can sense that. People will want to get behind you, right? People will want to remember you. And that is what creates vibe, right? So it comes down to your personality, the way you speak to people, the way that you present things, the way that you if you're performing, it's the way that you deliver the performance, it's the way that you're dressed, it's the way that the venue is set up, the decorations, the service that people experience, right? If you think about a really, really big performance, the way that people feel isn't just the way that the artist presents himself on the stage, but it's also like the experience of getting there, going into the arena. Like think about a huge concert, going into the arena, finding their seats, the lighting, the music, the vibe, the energy. It's all in that. It's not just the performer, it's also the arena, right? It's also the environment, right? So if you want to create vibe, optimize your environment in some way. Optimize it so that, people feel that energy, right? And yeah, it's an interesting question to like, how can you create vibe? And it depends on your context, right? But if you're making content, obviously create that energy through you, channel it through you. If you're performing in public environment, right? And as well as you, when you're building a business, branding is everything. And then put a person and put them as the face of that company and give people something to associate with. That's, a little bit more interesting than a boring product. And then break the rules, right? If you want to give people something to remember you for, then you got to break the rules. You got to do something that subverts the normal expectations that people have, right? You got to do something risky. You got to do something that people didn't expect. And that is what makes people remember you. Goodbye.